just made bread with our bread machine, because if you're married to a Chilean or in a relationship with a Chilean person, you know, they love them some bread. So of course we have to have a bread machine. And this shit is fucking delicious. Oh! Hey everybody on YouTube, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Rachel, the Student Witch. How are y'all doing? I am here to start a new series on my channel, and as you can see from the title to this video, it is going to be about the tools of belief. And basically the point of this series for me is to kind of celebrate the fact that, for me at least, being a pagan or owning the pagan title or identifying as pagan means that I understand that the divine, the sacred, what have you, can manifest itself physically. It exists in physical reality, in the earth, in the trees, in the stones, in the rivers, in the animals, in the plants, and in other human beings, right? I was raised Roman Catholic and raised in a very kind of conservative Christian, small town, rural Kentucky environment, and so I had it drilled in my head that this physical reality was less sacred than heaven or the realm of the divine, where the big daddy sky god was looking down and watching you and counting your sins and waiting for you to fuck up, right? So coming from that perspective, from that environment and that kind of upbringing, it's very liberating for me to see the divine everywhere, to see the divine within myself, right? And that is one of the most liberating and beautiful aspects of paganism to me. And so I figured, why not make a series celebrating that and talking about the tools of belief, the talismans, the candles, the rocks, the crystals, the stones, the altars that we as, for those of us who identify as pagan or maybe pantheist or are on that kind of spectrum, that we use to express gratitude to the divine, to communicate with whatever might be divine, and to manifest the divine in our everyday lives and realities, right? And so I wanted to make this series for that purpose, but I also wanted a series of videos on my channel that were a little bit on the shorter end. If you look at like the videos I've made in the past year or so, or probably since the beginning of my channel, the videos tend to be pretty long. They tend to be 20, 25, 30, 40 minutes long, and I know not everybody has that much time to invest in watching a video, so I kind of wanted 10 to 15 minute videos as part of a series just geeking out about paganism or pantheism or my approach to witchcraft and the tools that I use, right? And so to that end, I wanted to begin with the idea of belief as a tool. It seemed like an appropriate place to start. So whip out your copies of Condensed Chaos if you have one. If you don't, I highly recommend to read. Even if you identify more as like a Wiccan or if you're part of some other tradition, I think a chaos approach to magic, it's very eye-opening, and it's my jam. I'm a KO, y'all, I'm a chaos witch. So if you have this edition of this book, we open on page 13 is where Phil Hine lists the core principles of chaos magic. The principles being, in his words, the avoidance of dogmatism, and I'm going to get into that here in a second, personal experience as being paramount, technical excellence, deconditioning, super important, diverse approaches, kind of going along with that idea of belief as a tool, right, and gnosis, right, and that kind of, in my mind, goes with that idea that personal experience is paramount, personal gnosis is paramount, right? So if we go back to the first one, the avoidance of dogmatism, he says, and again, this is on page 13, how appropriate, the witchy number, right? Chaos magicians strive to avoid falling into dogmatism. Thus, chaos magicians feel entitled to change their minds, contradict themselves, and come up with arguments that are alternatively plausible and implausible. It has been pointed out that we invest a lot of time and energy in being right. What's wrong with being wrong occasionally? And so, to me, the idea of belief as a tool, like that's a common just phrase. It's just something that's very, very much marked by the chaos approach to magic. But the most liberating, I know I've said liberating a lot in this video, but it really, coming from that Catholic and Christian background, conservative Christian background, it really is liberating to think of belief as a tool, meaning that it's okay to listen to doubt and even skepticism. And so probably the second, like the flip side of this coin of belief as a tool, the opposite side is listening to doubt and being okay with change, right? So for those of us, or for those of you in my audience, if you came from a similar background as me, like maybe you weren't raised Roman Catholic or in rural Kentucky, but maybe you were raised in a more monotheistic, traditional, conservative situation, doubt is often treated as a personal failing on the part of the person experiencing the doubt, and it's seen as something that needs to be overcome, right? It's a test. It's the dark night of the soul, you know? Because, you know, under those kinds of monotheistic religions and in those circumstances, you are constantly asked to prove yourself to your God, to prove your loyalty to the one and only God, right? And so doubt becomes a problem if you listen to it. But under the chaotic approach to magic, to belief itself being a tool, it's very liberating. There I am saying the word liberating again. But it is, because at least in my personal experience, it means that I can listen to doubt. It means that I can admit when I'm wrong. It means that I don't use belief and my personal beliefs, whether they are spiritual or religious beliefs, political beliefs, everyday beliefs that we all have. Like, we all have beliefs about different things. We all have beliefs about how the economy should work, or political beliefs, personal spiritual beliefs, right? But if that tickling of doubt starts tickling your brain or your intuition, the chaos approach says that it's okay to listen to that and explore that and dive deep into it. It's okay to admit that you no longer believe X, Y, or Z anymore. You're going to switch over to something else. And I know this can be hard for people in other traditions, because so much of the tradition, I'm not just talking about other magical traditions or systems, I'm talking about other religious traditions. Part of your claim to be a member of that group or tradition is following the belief structures laid out by that tradition, right? And so if you all of a sudden start expressing doubt, then the other members of your community that are also part of that tradition might kick you out. They might kick you out of the church, or they might kick you out of the coven, or whatever, what have you. I'm a solitary practitioner, so I don't have to worry necessarily about that. And probably it makes a lot of sense for me to be a solitary practitioner, because I do listen to doubt and skepticism a lot. Maybe it's just my academic brain kicking in, but I do a lot of research. I compare sources. I listen to skepticism. I rarely just take people's word for it whenever they start making claims about their powers, or their claims about how magic works, or their claims about their belief systems and how their belief systems are universal principles, like the law of three or the law of return and all that kind of thing. I have a lot of skepticism and doubt about that. And I feel free to doubt. And I feel free to change my beliefs when necessary. And I'll end this video at this, because we're approaching 10 or 11 minutes now. It's okay to change your beliefs. And actually it can be a very healthy exercise to periodically, whether that's every 6 months, every year or two, every 5 years, whatever, to sit down and kind of do an inventory of your beliefs and to see if you really still believe what you claim to believe, because you might have changed, you might have evolved, and that's okay. It's okay to change your mind. I feel like, and this is just my personal kind of perception or opinion, but I feel like a lot of people have some ego issues about defending beliefs because they might over-identify with those beliefs. And so anytime they're approached by someone who isn't necessarily attacking their beliefs, but by someone who just has some questions about them, about their epistemology, has some questions about how they reach their conclusions, or just simply disagrees with them, they might get really defensive. And that kind of feeds into drama within the community, that feeds into tribalism, just so many things. So yes, I use belief itself as a tool. I feel okay and comfortable listening to my doubts, listening and using skepticism as a tool. And I try, sometimes I fail, right? We all do, we're not perfect, but I try to not identify or over-identify too much of my ego, my sense of self, my sense of self-worth. I try not to identify too much of that with my beliefs because I know they might change. And I'm okay with that. And I'm going to use the L word one more time. That approach has been extremely liberating for me. So, 12 minutes, 30 seconds. Sweet. I can just blab and blab on forever, but let me put the ball in your court, and those people in my audience. What are your opinions about belief as a tool? What are the traditions you identify with? What are your beliefs, or how do you yourself use belief as a tool? And what is your opinion, or what are some of your ideas about doubt and skepticism and things like that? I'm super curious to see what people have to say. So I think in the next installment, what am I talking about? I think I might be talking about ritual. I think for the first few videos, like the first 4 or 5 videos, I'm going to be talking more about concepts and ideas than I am about actual physical tools. So I'm going to talk about belief as a tool, ritual, ethics, things like that. And then we'll get into the fun stuff like crystals, candles, leaves, rocks, statues, things like that. So yeah, comment below about how you might use belief as a tool. And until next time, happy witching and many blessings. Bye.